Thank you very much for introducing Paul and I. Genuinely appreciated. And firstly, let me just start by saying thank you to all our clients who are joining today. We really appreciate that you've taken this time out of your busy schedules to spend it with us. So we endeavor not to waste any of your time. Before I start saying anything else, let me firstly just wish you all a wonderful Ramadan Kareem. And I pray that your families are all safe in this time and that you're able to enjoy a little bit of time with your families. This is from our GBM family to your families. So I just wish you all well, and I wish you all health and wealth as we go through this blessed time. Okay. Let's get started. So as Usha said, my role is to lead this business. And as I lead this business, I come from a solutions background. And one of the key things as I lead this on-premise business, my first statement is probably going to shock you slightly. Cloud is the enabler for extreme business agility. Sounds a little bit strange coming from a solutions guy on premise, but I'm going to say it again. Cloud is the enabler for extreme business agility. When I talk to clients, I quite often like to just discuss what I think cloud is and what their view of cloud is. And so for me, cloud is simply a set of technologies and practices such as containers and microservices, DevOps and automation that enable us to have this agility. So cloud is pretty cool, but when I talk to my customers, does it mean that it's for business agility, or does it mean it's a destination and I should move my entire business to that destination immediately? The answer for me is no. It gives great business agility, but cloud is not a destination. In fact, cloud is a critical part of your, and I talk about hybrid cloud here, it is a critical part of your business landscape, but it is not ultimately a complete destination in itself. So I think there may come a time in the far future where we can host, thousands of petabytes of data in the cloud as a business, and it's affordable. Today, I don't think that really exists. I think it's a little bit expensive. And the second element to it, of course, is even if you clicked your fingers today, you wouldn't be able to move your entire existing or traditional environment onto the cloud at the click of a button. There'd actually have to be a little bit of a process before you could do that. And this is where we get to the topic around today's conversation, which is really about modernization. And I call it application modernization. You are welcome to call it business modernization. We can call it infrastructure modernization. We can call it journey to modernization. It doesn't matter. But modernization for me, as I deal with customers, says one thing. Modernization has to start on the platforms that you are already using today. I'm going to say it again. Modernization actually has to start on the platforms that you are already using today. Paul, could we go to the next slide, please? So, and for me, these modern technologies that are there, are they capable of running on my existing environment? And the answer to that is yes, because Linux has become quite pervasive. Kubernetes has become quite pervasive, and open source software management tools have become quite pervasive. In many ways, I think that these are quite enterprise class today. In fact, I know that they are enterprise class. And when I speak to a large majority of our customers, many of them are saying to me, we know that we have to go and do this. In fact, it's almost 50% of people are saying we know that we have to go and modernize, and yet they don't. Because they think that the existing systems of record that they are dealing with are actually quite inflexible. And part of what Paul and I will discuss with you today is how the systems of record have fundamentally changed in the last 2.5 years to be something that is firstly open, secondly enterprise ready, and most importantly, we have launched a platform that enables you to do this today in your system of record. And that was our Z15 announcement at the end of last year. So if businesses are enterprise relevant, how have we made the industry enterprise relevant, and how have we made the enterprise, the industry enterprise capable? So I think this is where IBM and Red Hat got together, and what they decided to do was to own the end-to-end stack of a container. And the way that I want you to think of a container is, imagine you have a business process inside your company today. It doesn't matter whether it's based on your CRM or on your ERP, or if it's looking at credit balances. It doesn't matter what that process is. Imagine being able to put that process into a container inside your existing environment. And I always think of that container as a pot in my kitchen, whereas I'm going to put some eggs in that pot, or I'm going to put some vegetables in that pot, then I'm going to put a little bit of water in that pot, then I'm maybe going to add a little bit of rice, whatever I may do in that pot. But this is how we've got to start thinking about our application stack. It goes inside a container that I need to be able to move around the environment. And this is what I think the combination and the merger between IBM and Red Hat have enabled us to do. They've enabled us to create what I call a Linux container. And in that Linux container is then a platform where I can put my traditional applications inside that platform, and I can move that platform. Firstly, I can keep it obviously on-premise, and I can create almost a cloud effect from my on-prem tools, so my on-prem hardware. The second thing that I can do is I make myself immediately cloud ready, which means that I can move this container to the cloud if I need to, which creates this hybrid environment. And then the third element, of course, is what happens if I'm not happy with my first cloud provider? Do I go to a second cloud provider? The answer is, I think about 80% of companies will go and use multiple clouds. And so you want an orchestration layer or a management layer that enables you to do all of those things. And the technology that we have available today can absolutely do all three of those things at the same time. You know, for me, the moment I put my application in a container that I can move, it enables me to bring external data into my environment, which then enables me to augment my container. It enables me to maybe add some IoT data to my container. It maybe is about adding some GPS data, or for me to add a business process around it, or an automation process around it, or even some machine learning and deep learning, which will enable me to do some form of predictive analytics, or just get me to recognize a certain customer instance when I want to react to it. So that is what the internal modernization means. You've got to start this thing internally. On every single one of the products that GBM supplies you today, you have this ability. So you have it. You just got to switch it on inside your system of record. The second thing is that the moment you've done it, it enables you and your teams to serve your customers in a cloud-ready way. The same agility and instantaneousness that you need. And then the last element of it is it makes you ready to go to cloud whenever you want to. And then it becomes your choice to be in one cloud or multiple clouds. But importantly, your on-premise environment remains a part of your landscape. It's not something that you just get rid of. It's part of the landscape. Now, Paul, when I look at this, I mean, in essence, this is a digital transformation, right?
Absolutely.
And I know you have some real thoughts around digital transformation, which I think is the perfect segue.
Okay, thanks, David. And thanks for the introduction, Usha. Yeah, I have a bit more grey hair than David. So one of the things that's quite interesting about this particular presentation we're doing is, you know, David's coming at this from a systems end. I'm coming at it from a software end, yet he's talking about software and solutions, and I'm talking about solutions on hardware. So it's all about the word solutions. You know, if I just quickly come along to, if we talk about digital transformation, everyone wants to do it. And in fact, in this current situation, I think there is a rapid move towards digitization and therefore transformation. If we actually look at, just get the next slide, if it'll move. Yep, here we go. One of the questions that often asked is, Are you ready for this transformation? Because it's coming. And I've highlighted some of the buzzwords. Agile. We've been talking about agile for some time, but we tended to talk about it in terms of our development department. Software developers had to use agile techniques, but it's more to do with agile business and agile thinking, reacting to new market opportunities, to new challenges, to new threats. We're finding more and more, and in fact, been working with a number of customers in the region where they're going beyond that and saying, we actually want to be an innovator in our industry. And for that, helping them set up innovation centers, doing hackathons, doing rapid development, being able to adapt and adopt new innovations as they come along. Following the industry, keeping up with them, keeping ahead of them. In banking, for instance, making sure that we have external APIs when we want to have third parties, fintechs consuming our services and making money out of it, we will. But for that, we need to have the most flexible infrastructure. Now, it could be argued that sticking all of my technology and my applications and my business systems onto a public cloud, that's as flexible as it gets. But as David mentioned, there's some challenges when I'm working on maybe multiple gigabytes, terabytes, or even petabytes of data. I really can't be throwing that around the network too much. There are new waves coming that are going to modify our view. David hinted at IoT. Now, containers have been around for some time. But actually, if you think in your mind about the standardized shipping container, that's what it's all about. Having a standard container to put functionality into. It's self-contained, it's standard in terms of, you can pile them high and sell them cheap. You can start doing blockchain and AI on there. And the last message is really be ready for it. It's here already. I personally believe that what we're going through at the moment will move quite a few organizations to basically accelerate their move to cloud. Now, cloud does not necessarily mean that you have to go and put all your applications out in the public cloud that could be hosted, in Outer Mongolia or wherever. But actually, it's about being ready for cloud technology. The containers, the Kubernetes, the OpenShift that came with Red Hat, all of these are the flexible container enterprise platform. And yeah, I can run it all internal. But what it means is I gradually will migrate my applications into microservices, containers, and be able to run them much more flexibly, much more scalably, just like I can in the public cloud. I can do that internally. But actually the reality is going to be, I actually don't want to have a continuous wave of new extensions to my data center. Why don't I take some of my workload and put it in one of the public clouds? And the concept of a hybrid cloud is very key here. And we talk about this all the time. It's not just a single cloud. It's not necessarily multiple public clouds, but it's the ability to have a seamless join between what I have internally and what I have externally. So if we look at what hybrid cloud for the enterprise means, well, yeah, we need to run it behind the firewall. We need to get ready for cloud, even if we're never going to lift the firewall. So the concept of a private cloud, I can still run on, there are customers in this region with 2,000-3,000 Intel servers sitting in acres of racking. Well, I could actually run that on Power or Z or Linux One, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. The key thing here is by putting the layer of containerization and orchestration on top of the hardware, my code, my applications, my solutions, they don't care where they're running. I can purpose them. I can put them where they need to be. It may well be that I need enormous power. I may need enormously secure encryption, which might drive me to a Power or a Z machine or a Linux One machine in terms of being able to do consolidation of my server base. So that third from the left, I think is quite key in this region. But what we want is to have what we're calling a cloud native experience. It should look and feel just like it would if I was doing some development in Azure, AWS, IBM Cloud, any of those. So that whole look and feel and the experience and the way I develop is the same. Public cloud, yeah, get ready for it. There's going to be massive amounts of horsepower out there able to be used, maybe to augment what you've already got. Excuse me. It may well be that you have a certain amount of capacity on your own private cloud, and at month end, quarter end, where you want to ramp up, you don't necessarily want to carry a whole big overhead of capacity. So maybe you flow over into the public cloud and then you flow back again. So elastic scalability that's always been there with the cloud comes along with this as well, but it's also in a hybrid mode. I can elastically scale onto the cloud and then back off again. So the strap line at the bottom is a hybrid multi-cloud experience with any of the platforms that you have. Yeah, you could still keep your 3,000 Intel servers, but it may well be that if you start replacing 200 or 300 a year just because of the normal cycle, you might think about putting something with a bit more vertical scalability. And I think we'll talk specifically about Linux One a little bit later for those who may not have come across it very much. So it's the power of those machines, but in the end, everything on top looks the same. If I move forward, we talked about containerizing our applications, whether it was an ERP or whether it was a Salesforce or anything like that. IBM has also now moved very rapidly into containerizing all of the open middleware that they have. So the container platform and the operational services are all shared across, and you'll see down the bottom, IBM Cloud, AWS, Azure, private, bare metal, whatever we need to do, we run this OpenShift layer. And then we can package open source components, but also IBM and other pre-built containerized solutions, so all of the middleware. If you looked at the IBM portfolio, we had hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of software. Well, a couple of years ago, they were then bundled into things like digital business automation, which was a platform of 4 or 5 traditional pieces of software and middleware bundled together. They've taken it a step further. The next step is announcing these cloud packs. So these are pre-integrated sets and groups, bundles, if you like, of traditional software that we know, but redeveloped and repurposed to be fully containerized. So you've got the Cloud Pak for automation applications, which is a complete end-to-end DevOps platform. Cloud Pak for data, pulling together all of the traditional data, the analytics, and the AI solutions. Cloud Pak for integration, the traditional middleware around APIs, around application integration, and messaging and events, and so on. The key part here is these are actually, once you've built each one of these as a bunch of containers, the lines between what we would have traditionally called product get blurred. My expectation, and that's all it is at this stage, I don't have an inside track, is that there will be a thing called IBM Cloud Pak for everything. You just go to a catalog and you pull down the components you want. But it runs again in this underlying container platform, the enterprise container platform. So mission critical workloads still running on the enterprise scale middleware, augmented with more and more as we go forward, open source components running in a container world and physically running down the bottom wherever you want it to run, wherever it's appropriate to do it. So how do we get there? It's all very well, we'll just throw everything away, rip and replace and start again. That's never going to happen. How would you build a private cloud in your data center? I mean, the traditional middleware is there, and this is a banking finance solution, but it applies to all industries. So I've got my core applications, my line of business applications, my systems of record. I've got all of my data. I've got some cached systems, and I've got directories and things, and all the traditional stuff. In front of that, I have spent many years building this whole traditional middleware environment around application servers, integration buses, business process, content queues, and with a DMZ with various bits and pieces around security and tokens and gateways, exposing it to the outside world. And we don't throw this away. What we actually do is we take those traditional middleware applications and solutions and start to slowly transition them to a container world. So the private cloud here will be my OpenShift container. So here I may have some enterprise service buses. At the moment, they're probably heavyweight services. I'll start to break those down into a bunch of microservices and repurpose those into the containers in my private cloud. And without going into too much detail, I can do the same with my processes. I can go into having each process running in a separate container. I can have my applications, my monolithic applications that I built myself, and I buy from third parties, will gradually move towards microservice applications. So again, they can run containerized. Each one of those then actually maps to where we have the cloud packs that were announced 2 years ago now, I think it must be. And that's great. I've got this nice firewall, but a little bit later, I might just decide I'd like to dip my toe into a hybrid world. And really all we're talking about here is saying we have the ability, this screen will move, to move everything backwards and begin to actually start to add other clouds, maybe an IBM cloud, maybe AWS or Azure. But each one of those can have, for instance, some of my integration. So it might be my customer-facing APIs that I wish to do my, let's say, my open banking with. I can extend those out into, say, the IBM cloud. The thing is, the cloud pack for integration that runs here is the same as runs here. It's running on the same OpenShift. It's running in the same container platform. Similarly for my applications. Yeah, I'll do some applications, some modernization. I might actually want to do some development out here. It's not sensitive. It's coding, but it can act as if it's one environment. And the same goes for automation and data. Maybe I move those onto Azure. I mean, I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but I saw something a while ago that said corporates that have moved data and applications into the public cloud have on average nearly 4 cloud solutions, not just the one. You don't bet everything on one. But the beauty here is if I don't like a particular cloud, I can move this straight to the other one. I'm not tied to a specific cloud because of the insulation layer of my container platform. The last one we haven't really talked about here is the Cloud Pack for multi-cloud. This is all about being able to actually run these as if they are one. Yeah, there's some very clever security and management software in here that allow me to run multi-cloud hybrid across the whole environment and be able to manage it and seamlessly move work from one to the other. So what about a mission critical cloud? Because a lot of organizations have bought into, we run our mission critical inside the firewall, and outside we might just do a bit of development or whatever. With the cloud management, which is multi-cloud management now, we're getting consistent management and orchestration across that hybrid using OpenShift. So it now gives me the ability to run my mission critical workloads on cloud, on public cloud, and on-premise cloud and hybrid. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but I need security. I usually pose the question, which is, of all the data breaches that have happened in the last 12 months, where did they all happen? Did they happen on AWS, Azure, or IBM Cloud? No, they happened inside the data center with some guy with a USB stick. So I think, those data centers are becoming more and more secure. In fact, when you look at the IBM Cloud, IBM are now actually deploying System Z onto their cloud for workloads that really require that full end-to-end encryption and all the quality of service that you get with a Z. And having agility and lightweight portable containers for all our applications. So I think just to echo what David said, this is now enterprise ready. This is very much enterprise ready. And we can start on-premise and gradually move as appropriate to a hybrid world. So the last bit I really want to do before handing back to David is just have a little look at the two big beasts, as it were. Now, IBM Z has been around for a long time. We alluded to when I actually started in the IT industry. I mean, we had in IBM UK, where I was working at the time, two of the very largest computers on planet Earth. They were both fully expanded and configured with 16K of RAM. You know, we've come a long way. These massive scalable machines now give us the ability to go vertically scalable. We've done horizontal scalability for some time. I need more power, I'll buy more servers, I'll buy more racks. Now we can actually take this up, because the beauty of running on Z and the Linux One, particularly on Z, is I've got my existing, you know, and I won't call them, you know, these are applications that are cherished. You know, I hate the word legacy. You know, the only definition of a legacy application is one that works. But I want to modernize them. You know, I've got client applications. I've got IBM traditional software running in maybe my VMs and running on top of Linux. But now putting in OpenShift, I can begin to move some of the IBM software into the Cloud Pak versions and some of my client applications repurposed into microservices. I've got a self-service portal, I've got automation tools, all those things that we know and love from the public cloud now available within here. So I can create cloud-native applications. I've got a full DevOps suite that allows me to do it. And actually, while I mention that, that reminds me that, you know, not that many years ago, we would start with buying some hardware, putting an operating system, getting an application server, getting some middleware, and then building some applications. With this, it all goes completely the other way around. We actually start with DevOps. We want rapid development. We want it to go through and deploy it very rapidly and as often as we need to, wherever we need to. So the whole thing you'll see here is around centralized management, the multiple architectures, whether it's a Power, a Linux, or a Z, or even an Intel, doesn't make any difference. The layer, the installation layer, is the container platform. So with that, David, would you like to just say a few words about where some of the clients are going with this?
Yeah, Paul, thank you very much. And it's always good to have somebody with a lot more industry experience than I have validate what I said earlier, Paul. So, so thank you. I appreciate that. You know, for me, unless we have good examples about where this has been done before, what Paul and I say can actually ultimately be irrelevant. And so, you know, we have customers in every industry using this technology and Linux One today. Here in the Middle East, some of our GBM clients, in fact, we have 300 of our high-end clients across the Middle East using our high-end enterprise-ready platforms. My point is, every single one of those platforms is ready for this kind of conversion or modernization that Paul and I have been talking about. And what I've done is I've actually selected two examples. So as we look at the next slide, there's two examples that I'd like to share with you of real customer cases and what they wanted from their Linux One or what they wanted from their business environment. The first one that I selected is a company or a customer called the UK Met Office. I chose this because I was involved in it in 2018. And I remember having the original discussion with Graham at the time, where he said the following to me. He said, Dave, we actually have three key business challenges, right? We have to operate all the time. And most importantly, we have to be right and we have to be relevant. That was his very first one of three challenges. And then he said, you know, as we scale, we have to ensure that we control our costs. In this modern environment and the large amount of data that we see, we can see our costs getting out of control very, very quickly, including the environment becoming quite complex quite quickly. And then the last thing he said to me was, I want to be able to develop in a very agile manner. So DevOps has to be a critical part of this, because I need to reach different kinds of communities in different ways, and they will ask me for changes all the time, or they'll just go buy it from the weather company in Europe, right? So he had a number of things that he was trying to control. And when we had a look at the original solution, can you give me the next click, please, Paul? When we looked at the original solution, I actually saw 1 and 3 are linked quite closely together. You know, they needed 6 or 7 nines worth of availability, and this platform could do it for them. They needed, and they wanted it to contain the costs, so the software was embedded inside this platform, which enabled them to create these containers, which gave them the level of agility that they needed. And then from a consolidation perspective, if you have a look at the range of consolidation that they were able to do, it ranged from a 15-to-1 consolidation all the way through to a 48-to-1 consolidation, depending on what the workload was. And, you know, when I spoke to Graham about this afterwards, he said to me, actually, Dave, what has happened here is you have reduced complexity for me. Just the networking and the patching would have driven me crazy. And of course, the other thing is then just the massive footprint that we would have had to manage would have been quite difficult. You can see in the lines that, you know, I think he was talking about something like we're going to generate 100 terabytes a day. I don't even understand numbers like that. And I remember when Graham spoke on stage about this, he said, you know, we are betting our business on Linux One. And actually, I sleep quite well at night. I sleep easily in the knowledge that we can absolutely rely on our data delivery systems, which I thought was a fantastic quote from a client that I know quite well. So if you want to bet your business, this may just be a really good platform to do it as you try to modernize. And when we look at the second case, you're going to see quite a recurring theme. You know, for me, the second case, it's an insurance study. And in this insurance study, there were two key business challenges that this insurance company was trying to address. The first one was escalating hardware and software costs. And secondly, they had a regulatory thing because they were in financial services. They had a regulatory thing that was coming over the hill that was really going to drive them to a whole new cost base. And maybe even the requirement that they had to build another data center. And so then they started to look at various kinds of solutions. The second thing that they wanted to do was they wanted to have a supported open source solution for hybrid cloud. This is a really important statement. They wanted a supported open source solution for hybrid cloud because that is what they were going to do from a DR perspective. And this was the piece that they got caught in from a regulation perspective. So they went through this whole re-architecture phase effectively to try and reduce costs, right? Because these were spiraling out of control, but then also to give them that business flexibility or that business agility that they would need to be able to reach new insurance buyers, take new services or offerings into the marketplace. And they wanted to meet the regulatory compliance, which is why they wanted a hybrid cloud for DR. And just a couple of the stats for me that really blew me away as I was looking through this case: 21-to-1 consolidation ratio. It's just unheard of. I actually heard one of the guys made a note as I was preparing for this, where the savings was $37 million for this company, as they would have had to repurpose and relicense and do all these things. So they had a massive savings from a software savings perspective. Forget all the floor space, etc., that they also managed to save. You know, the last thing that I wanted to leave you with was probably the most important element of the technology that we are seeing today is this DevOps part. Paul alluded to it. I see the world's next architects are actually going to be the DevOps people. They will almost, it's almost a DevOps culture that you've got to create inside your business to be ready for this millennium of transactions. And what I loved about both these two cases was that they all had a key business imperative, and the business imperative was around agility. And from an agility perspective, they understood that they had to have the tools that enabled their DevOps team to respond quickly. That for me is the overarching theme here. as you look to modernization, modernization for me is about DevOps, and then enabling DevOps to do their job properly, and enabling, and when they're doing the job properly, to make sure that they do it securely, which is this quality of service and security that Paul was talking about a little bit earlier. Okay, Paul, I thought that, you know, it's such a good set of cases that we see at the moment in the marketplace. Maybe there's just a couple of things that we want to say to our customers. And, you know, for me, the key things, Paul, can you give me the next click, please? This is the essential thing. We all think that transformation is far away. It's not. Transformation is happening right now. And I think we all know this. In fact, I've got a little picture of why I think transformation is essential. I remember last year, as I was in this role, looking at the fantastic series that called DX Summit that GBM ran, which was all about digital transformation. And I remember having a couple of discussions with a few customers going, this is actually far away. And I fast forward us to this unprecedented time that we're in, and I just have a look at what this global virus has done from an energizing the global or digital transformation of our market. And so digital transformation is not far away anymore. In fact, we have to act now. Now, we have a second bullet point as well, which for me is, if you're interested in doing this, and you are interested in modernizing your business, please reach out to your local GBM representative. And if you don't have a local GBM representative, I have the easiest email address in the world. It's DCM, Delta Charlie Mike, at gbmme.com. DCM@gbmme.com. And come and talk to us if you do want to modernize. And we'll take you through some of the fantastic practices that Paul and Eric have developed from a design thinking perspective that will enable you to see which of your environments can be modernized and how quickly some of them can be modernized. And they link that directly to your core business or your key business processes. And then our final call to action, which is our third call to action, is there's actually never been a better time than now. I was reading a paper from Harvard Business School just the other night, and they said now is a good time to evaluate your business. Which of the processes are you going to take forward and which are you going to leave behind as you modernize? For me, that is probably the way I want to leave this statement today. There's never been a better time to start. Decide what you want to take forward and let us help you, because as GBM and the family, we can do that indeed. Paul, any other thoughts from your side, sir?
No, I think that sort of sums it up quite nicely. I think you're right, though. You know, it's going to leave everyone behind. This is gathering steam, and you know, with some of the challenges we have at the moment, you know, having some capability on one form of cloud or another is going to be very critical. And you know, there are a lot of cloud providers out there who are pushing cloud. I think our message is always hybrid, because you know, the crown jewels are going to be our stuff that we want to keep, the stuff that's really, you know, mission critical, and we may still want to run that on premise, but there's not to stop us from actually migrating it towards cloud native and repurposing and modernizing it, so it then becomes cloud ready. So I think that's the you know, there's some other sessions coming up. There's a journey to hybrid cloud and multi-cloud, which the guys there will talk about that as well. So we start from the point of, you know, it's hybrid cloud, and then we might go towards multiple clouds, or we might go to hybrid, including private clouds. There's AI, and there's going to be more to come over the next couple of months on a regular basis. Sessions, not necessarily about systems. Some will be about you know, the business automation, or I'm doing one, I think, next month called hyper automation, which should be quite interesting. So I think that's it, and I think the next slide actually says.
Can we open up some questions, Paul? Yeah.
Yep.
So let me just navigate to the right tab here that looks at some questions. So I have a question from Irfan. Irfan, I hope that I pronounced your name correctly. You said we're in retail. What solutions do you have for retail at the moment? So retail is one of the environments that that I think DevOps is probably going to play the largest role in. In fact, you're seeing it right now. You're seeing a bunch of development as, in fact, you know what, I'm going to make it real. Have you downloaded the MOE's app, and have you had a look at Noon? What Noon has done is the piece of DevOps work that they did to connect all the stores that are inside MOE to Noon, sorry, not MOE, inside the Dubai Mall to Noon was a piece of DevOps iteration. And if you have a look at that, it took them probably under 3.5 weeks to launch that. That means that you and I, whilst we don't have to go directly to that store, we can shop inside that store. This is what I mean about business agility, and this is what I mean about DevOps. Yep. So, Irfan, just to go back to your question, yes, lots of solutions in retail, but actually it's about how you create this broader ecosystem and how you create a new route to market. And the fastest way to do that is to embrace DevOps. Paul, you probably have a view as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, actually a similar one just this morning. I thought, you know, being an old guy, I'm not allowed to go out to the shops anymore. So I thought I'd better have a look at Carrefour.com or AE. And I noticed when I go through to the shopping there's a new flashing little button at the top that says shop in other stores. So there begins to be much more of a, this is the API culture. You know, the other stores are effectively offering their APIs to other people to mash up into their own portal. So I didn't actually click on it. It may well be that it just links me through to the other stores within the Mall of the Emirates. But the way to go will be that actually, as part of Carrefour, I can go shop anywhere. Yeah, and it uses their branding. And this is very much the same as you would see with open banking. You know, my Lloyds Bank account, I have a mobile app, and it says, have you got any banks, any of these list of banks, Royal Bank of Scotland, HSBC, whatever. I provide the credentials and they can give me a mashup of all of my banks all together. That can only be done in a DevOps world. And probably the fastest DevOps I've seen was the Dubai police when they decided that we needed these permits. That app, it was a web app, but it changed every day. Literally, there was a new function. First thing, put the raw function up. Don't boil the ocean to get everything right. You know, the whole concept of DevOps and Agile is put something up that does a useful task. Then on a daily or 2 daily, deliver new functionality. So this was my point that says, you know, instead of doing the traditional, let's go all the requirements, let's build up all a big, 3 months worth of analysis, let's just start, go for it and do it Agile. But it requires the business to be Agile.
Correct. Paul, we have another question from Jean Villiers. And this may be one for Yasser. Yasser is from IBM and one of our panelists today. So the question is there any use case for any Dubai government organization already using this? Thank you very much. Yasser, do you want to take that question?
Okay, thank you, Dave. So I'm not going to talk about Dubai government in specific because we don't have any kind of official references for the work that we have, but I'm going to talk about governments in general. So we have a lot of use cases related to security, related to database services, related to blockchain. So I'm not going to talk about specific Dubai government, but these are some sort of use cases which are important for government, for security things, to secure the infrastructure, and for the database services, and for the blockchain.
Thank you. I see Fadi Al-Hassan has asked us if we could share, and will this recording be available? The answer is absolutely yes, sir. We will make this recording available. If you have registered, which you clearly have because you're on this call, we will make sure that you get a link to the recording so that you can listen to it again. Let me see if there are any other questions. Those are the questions I have at the moment. So if there are no more questions coming through, let me just take this opportunity to thank you all very much for the time that you have given us today. Keep your family safe. And from our family to yours, have a wonderful weekend and have a blessed Ramadan. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.